Hey cuties, welcome back to the Tita Talks podcast. I'm your host, Daaca. This is the place where ancestral remembrance intersects storytelling. Oh man, I really love the Tita Talks podcast. I love the folks at Radyo Kapwa who so graciously host this show every last Wednesday of the month, live on the radio. So that's really cool. I feel like I mention that every single time because I simply can't get over that. And also because it's really important that I give gratitude to the folks at Radyo Kapwa and Song Kapwa because they just do such incredible work. And it really is an honor for me to be able to participate in Radyo Kapwa this way and for them to share their platform with me. So as always, much love to the crew over at Radyo Kapwa. Today's episode, oh man, I really missed y'all. I did. So your girl has been dabbling a little bit into tarot. I somewhat recently got a tarot deck in the last couple months, and I was gifted an oracle deck, so that was cool. And then was that yesterday? No, 2 days ago. Regardless, over the weekend, I went shopping with a friend, and I was not intending to purchase another oracle deck or any oracle deck, but I came across Yumi Sakugawa's Cosmic Comfort. Maybe not quite an oracle deck, but it says 50 tender affirmations and grounding meditations from the universe. Now, if you're not familiar with Yumi, I'm a huge fan of her. If you follow them on Instagram, she hosts different art workshops. So Yumi's an artist, and the cards themselves are so beautiful. They're very colorful and bright. The messaging on each card is also really beautiful. I'm very new to this deck, so I haven't had a chance to really look at every single card individually. But the cards are also full of her artwork. Again, bright in their color and imagery. And yeah, I do feel like this deck found me. It was the last one at the shop, and I have been a huge fan of Yumi's for the last few years. But kind of the central themes of what Yumi speaks on Instagram is rest being an integral part of the artistic process, as well as art being important in our collective liberation, which I really love in terms of messaging. For example, one of Yumi's posts says, being creative is powerful because of your refusal to accept things exactly as they are. In the darkest and most depressing times, creativity is a survival strategy to remind yourself that you still have autonomy and power to change and shift the frequency of your surroundings as well as those around you. So again, really love the core messaging around what Yumi shares on Instagram, but then also big fan of their work. So when I saw the deck in the store, it was immediately yes. Homegirl just steps outside. Homegirl's me. Homegirl just steps outside and spends $100 for some reason. But, she's really enjoying her summer. That's a side update. I am in my hometown for the summer, and I'm actually having a great time because summers in Winnipeg are so fun. There's so much to do. I'm also really loving being close to my friends right now. We'll get into that in the episode. I think that's somewhat related to this, but just to provide context, I was shopping and found this deck at a local shop in Winnipeg, so that was cool. And again, last deck, there was only one, and the second I saw it, I was like, yep, that's for me. That one was for me. So I love this idea that things find you exactly when you need them. I kind of feel that same way about the tarot deck that I got somewhat recently. I don't know when I got it, in the last couple of months, but yeah, I've been pulling cards for myself and a select few people, but I'm still learning kind of all of the meanings of the tarot. But I got this really beautiful deck, and all of the cards are like gold. It's just like really pretty to look at. One thing about me is that it'll always be aesthetic. So in any case, got this deck, and I was kind of feeling like, you know what would be fun is if I tapped into our, kind of collective energy, and I'm like, what is the message? What is the message that we all need to hear today? And so I did that. I did that right before recording today. And, I thought about us as a collective. I thought about what message we needed to hear today. Who was going to listen to this? I don't know. I don't know who listens to this. But the card that I pulled from Yumi's deck. So again, this is Cosmic Comfort, 50 Tender Affirmations and Grounding Meditations from the Universe. Gorgeous. So this blue card popped out, and the image is like a bunch of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people holding hands. It's so sweet. And the card that I pulled is Collective Future Dreaming. Yeah, right? We did need that today. Collective future dreaming. Stop. Okay, so I'm going to read the card. So it says, we do not have to inherit the future created by the past. The future decided generations ago by unjust power that denied the well-being of the whole. We can consciously imagine, dream, download, generate, co-create, collaborate, manifest new visions and new paradigms of the future. A future we desire for ourselves and our communities, one that calls in new patterns of being, healing, mending, empowering, connecting. So this is in bold here. Dare to believe what is possible for our collective future with every fiber of your being. Live as though this collective future dream is not only possible, but inevitable. Woo! That was pretty good, hey? I feel like that is so potent. That is a potent message. And I think something we probably all kind of need to hear right now. And what comes up for me, obviously there's so much collective grief, collective pain that's happening right now. And I often worry that I'm not doing enough. And the thing that came up for me. So in terms of like what my activism looks like on a day-to-day basis, and this card pull of collective future dreaming, I feel like for me, my place in our collective healing, our collective liberation, is to share the gifts that I have. And the things that come up for me when I think about this card that we pulled here is that your gifts are inherently tied to your activism. And for me, that gift that I'm referring to is the practice of buy-in and how I can share that into community. And I do feel like whatever work, whatever, again, gift that you have that brings us back to self inherently liberates us, right? Like, there are so many forces, powers outside of us that want to pull us away from our natural state and way of being. And I think anytime you can share your gifts that give you the lane to connect back to yourself also gives others permission to do the same. And I think in that knowing of self, it helps you to show up better for the collective. And outside of that, I really do think that this, again, like knowing of self is the basis for this collective future dreaming, right? Like, how can we possibly dream of a collective future that's different than the one that we've inherited, right? Like, we do not have to inherit the future created by the past and futures decided by generations ago by unjust power. I think that the activity of consciously imagining, dreaming, downloading, generating, co-creating, collaborating, manifesting, all of that, bringing new visions and new paradigms of the future into reality, it really has to come from a strong sense of self. And Now, I don't want to be like, well, you need to know exactly who you are and exactly blah, blah. No, it's not about that. It's about, like, what do you stand for? Like, what is important to you? And on top of that, it's like, who are you, right? Again, I don't think you have to fully be able to define that in order to participate in collective future dreaming. But I think that future dream should include that baseline kind of values and morality, right? Like if we are building from a place of from a place where we don't know ourselves, I think it's easy for us to get kind of sucked into looking into the future based on our past experience of that, or based on a future that was, again, decided by generations ago, or unjust power systems. So I do think that the work of sharing your gifts and even like just encouraging those gifts within yourselves brings you closer to self. And on the other hand, too, the other thing that's coming to me is, how can we truly connect with one another if it's not rooted in a true form of self, right? Like if I'm connecting with you based on like an egoic surface level version of myself, am I really connecting with you? I often think about that, like in my corporate career. Like I know that I'm just a caricature there. I'm just an avatar. Like I show up to work and the code switching is real. That's a survival tactic. I have to be good at my job, and the level of professionalism that's required there. Yeah, there is some level of code switching that happens. I am simply a caricature. So the connections that I make there, like, I don't think that they're real, because I know that that's not really who I am. And on that too, I really try to bring pieces of myself to my work, but I don't bring all of it. I certainly don't bring all of it. And that is a tactic, 100% a tactic. But when I think about who I am with my closest friends, or who I am in community, especially when I'm in a workshop or sharing my gifts, like in the highest version of myself, like that's true. That's 100% true, like who I am. And that's something like I can't fake that. It just feels really natural. So those are the things that come up when I think about this card that we drew today, Collective Future Dreaming. For me, the Babayan practice is really a huge part of that future dreaming. And there's something really interesting about how, for me, the idea of future dreaming brings in a lot of elements of past, right? But a past that we haven't been able to fully experience or live in. And I often describe Babayan as like a sacred way of knowing. Oh my God, I didn't even explain. I just went in on Babayan and didn't explain what it was. So sorry for listeners who are out there who are not familiar with Babayan. It's the pre-colonial script that we were using for Tagalog. And again, prior to Spanish colonization, we had our own writing system in the Philippines, again, for the Tagalog language. Mostly a lost kind of writing system today. However, there is a bit of a resurgence of that writing system, and my work is to preserve and share and teach that writing system. So I do think, again, when I'm in workshop, when I explain kind of my views on Babayan, I really do think that there is an inherent knowing, like sacred knowledge stored in the body that we're simply reawakening. And it's funny how we're talking about collective future dreaming, but it really is kind of about bringing those elements of past knowledge to the forefront. But like I said, we haven't really been able to experience a reality where that knowledge is central, right? Like where that's our, I won't say source of truth, but where that's our default, way of being, way of expressing, that kind of thing. So I do feel strongly that when we think about who we are in the collective future, as we do this act of collective future dreaming, like who are we and all of that, I do think that we all have our own roles to play, and it will just look different than what everyone else is doing. Something I'm really trying to learn is not to look left and right in a comparative way. Like, yeah, look left and right to observe and support and, be tapped into what others are doing in the collective. But I often find myself looking left and right in a comparative measure, right? To be like, am I doing enough? Am I enough? Like, that is always the base question. I'm like, am I doing enough? But I really think that we all have our own individual roles in this act of collective future dreaming, collective liberation, all of that. The other thing that comes up to me when it comes up for me when I'm thinking about collective future dreaming is, okay, so the first one was that our gifts are inherently tied to our activism, and that that helps us recognize kind of our individual roles in that. But the second thing that comes up for me is that who I surround myself with in this activity of collective future dreaming is so important. And that true collective future dreaming for me, like, I can't share that with everyone. I don't think that everyone is ready for that. And not to say, like, it's not meant to be it's not to exclude anyone from that activity, but it's more as a protection of my own gifts and my own energy, and just letting people meet me where I am, right? Because if you can't meet me in that conversation in terms of like what I can see as a collective future, it's hard to share that with people, because often what happens is they will meet you with their fear and their worries or their futures that are created by, again, past generations, unjust power structures, where it's like, okay, you're making it very hard. You're making it very difficult for me to dream in this future way for the collective. And I especially, this is the longest time that I've spent in Winnipeg in the last 3 years. So I've been here for a number of months now. I won't say how many, but this is the first time that I've been consistently in one place in the last 3 years. And I kind of forgot what it was like to consistently have access to the people around me. Like, I'm finding that my friendships with a very core group of people have become really strong. And then the opposite is also true, where I feel like I'm extra protective of who has access to me now that I'm in proximity to people in a more consistent manner. Whereas before it didn't really matter, because I was just like, oh, leaving again. It's a month or 2 months and 2 months and I'm gone. I don't really need to actively safeguard my energy that way, because I was just always on the go. It was always, those connections were always fleeting. And now I'm finding the opposite, where it's like, okay, there's a group of people that I feel a real core, like a core group that I feel a really deep connection with. And there are people outside of that where I'm like, maybe let's not. Maybe let's not hang out. But it's because of this. It's like they can't meet me on a conversation around collective future dreaming. And that's dreams for myself and how they trickle out into the collective. And I have plenty of stories of, I guess, like, again, who can hold that and who can't. I've got like 3 girlfriends right now who just, when I tell you they get it, like, they just get it. And, the internet is so like delulu, or all delulu, but like actually it's not delusional to us, but I think, again, to the people who can't hold it, feels delusional, right? Like, imagining ways of being, imagining ways of making money, of existing, of sharing gifts and community that maybe don't exist yet. And I think it's important to be able to share those things with people who can hear it. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I can have these like lengthy, in-depth, really just like soul-filling conversations with folks. And I do think too, like, outside of that kind of core group that I'm referring to right now, like I literally have 3 friends, you guys. I have 3 friends right now. They know who they are. But outside of that, I do think that the Winnipeg Filipino community, we have so much amazing organizers, and like the way that we're organizing here is so rich. And I find that outside of that core group, the next group of people that I want to share collective future dreaming with is that group. So just a little shout out to all of the amazing organizing that's happening here in Winnipeg in the Filipino community. And on that, Kultivation Festival is in a month. So if you're in Winnipeg, August 18 to the 24th, we've got tons of amazing programming. Definitely a side tangent conversation there, but again, that's, in my opinion, another group that can hold that type of collective future dreaming. And then I'm finding the opposite is also true too, where I am seeing people while I'm out who have held a past version of me in their mind, or maybe it's that, and then it's also, I think that people are observing me on the internet, like on Instagram, and making assumptions about what they know about me, and it's like, that's not all of who I am, and I think that's really kind of silly to assume that you know some things about people because they share things on the internet. But my experience on the other side of like who can hold things and who can't is, I've just had conversations with people in Winnipeg again, like people that I've known in my past who are either trying to keep me, they have this like held version of me in their mind, or it feels like a projection. Like there are so many questions around like, what are you doing? When are you going to settle down? Are you thinking about moving somewhere permanently? This, and that. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why you need to paint me in this. I guess in my mind, what's happening is like their thought process is that they have to be able to categorize me in their mind, because they have a very narrow view of like what is possible. Well, again, collective future dreaming, their vision of the future is very narrow, and they almost can't fathom something outside of it. And I'm really over summarizing what's happening, like some of the interactions that I've had. But it just feels like, again, their dreams of the future are really narrow. And in order to make themselves feel better about that choice of limiting their future dreams, that they have to make mine smaller. Again, really over summarizing some of these experiences. And maybe, I don't know, it's the podcast. Maybe I should just tell the whole story. But I've been met with some energy that feels like there's an undertone of hatred. And I don't know about that. Miss me with that. But again, I don't think it has anything to do with me, to be honest. I think it is really a projection. I really think it's a projection. So again, the 2 thoughts that come up when I think about collective future dreaming is, 1, get super clear on who can meet you on those places. I think it's really important to surround yourself with others who can hold a shared vision with you, and then also encourage a greater future vision for you. And then 2nd, be careful of who can't hang. Some of y'all can't hang, and that's okay. I love you, but from like all the way over here. From over here, distance is fine. I don't need to hold everyone. I don't need to be responsible for everyone. That's a big one I'm learning. Big one I'm learning. But yeah, I would love to know how this resonates with you. I'm going to read the card one more time because I think it's just so good. And I think that there are some really good reflection questions that could come out of this. So let me read this one more time to end off the episode so that you have it top of mind for maybe your journal or your reflecting after the fact. So collective future dreaming, again, from Yumi Sakugawa's Cosmic Comfort deck. So here it is. We do not have to inherit the future created by the past. The future decided generations ago by unjust power that denied the well-being of the whole. We can consciously imagine, dream, download, generate, co-create, collaborate, manifest new visions and new paradigms of the future. A future we desire for ourselves and our communities, one that calls in new patterns of being, healing, mending, empowering, connecting. Dare to believe what is possible for our collective future with every fiber of your being. Live as though this collective future dream is not only possible, but inevitable. So I guess the reflection questions, she loves to give homework. Reflection questions I would leave you with is, if you could imagine what that collective future dream is, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What are the sights and sounds and smells of that collective future? Another question that comes up for me is, in what ways can you share your gifts in order to create this future? And what are those gifts? What are those gifts that contribute to that future? What is your role in all of that? And we desire for ourselves and our communities. So what is one small thing that you can do today to call in new patterns of being, healing, mending, empowering, or connecting? So that was I really like this little format for today's episode. As always, it is a pleasure and a joy to be here. I do like the idea that future dreaming also is an act of ancestral remembrance, because, again, for me, I think a lot of it is returning to a default that has been forgotten or actively erased. So that brings me to the end of today's episode. So much love. I have so much love for y'all. Let me know how that resonates. You can message me at byebyandbaby on Instagram, or you can leave a comment on this. I think it gets posted to YouTube. Curious to know what your collective future dream looks like. In any case, that's the end of our episode today. Love you so much. And you can catch, again, Tita Talks on Radyo Kapwa every last Wednesday of the month. See you next time.
Yo, Makasamas, what's good? Salute to all my peoples across the 514. C'est Fanny Christo et vous écoutez Radio Kapwa sur 90.3 FM CKUT. Et en ce moment, je vous rapporte l'actualité aux Philippines. Avant que je commence, je voudrais vous rappeler que nos histoires sont des extraits. Mais après chaque émission, on met des liens des articles d'origine en ligne. Ok, on va commencer avec un article écrit par Erbigo Mézières le 8 juillet. And it goes. Spoof, smear, sabotage. How disinformation marred Cagayan de Oro's 2025 polls. Days before the May elections, people began arriving outside the home of a member of Congress. Some came alone, others brought friends, neighbors, even entire families. They all had one question: how to claim the cash aid they had been told he was giving away. Cagayan de Oro's 1st District Representative, Lorden Swan, said he made no such promise. Still, his phone buzzed constantly with messages. Outside, a growing crowd gathered, hopeful and insistent. They had all received the same text. Swan said the chaos caught his entire household off guard. His father panicked and had his mobile number disconnected. Campaign workers, who were supposed to be preparing for Election Day, were instead forced to manage a confused and disappointed crowd. It was absurd, Swan said. Instead of focusing on my campaign, I was answering questions about money we never promised. Swan's team traced the source to a coordinated text blast. The messages had spoofed not only his number, but also those of his family and staff, making it appear that he was personally behind the bogus giveaway. Cagayan de Oro's mayor Rolando U's family faced similar attacks. His son, former Vice Mayor Rainier Joaquin Kiking Uy, was running against one. On Election Day, text messages circulated claiming barangay leaders allied with the Uys were distributing cash for votes. Jan Aktub, the mayor's spokesman, said it was another hoax and a carefully timed mass text blast meant to undermine the Oy's election bids. Aktub said the online smear campaign was uncontrollable. Fake Facebook pages mimicking that of the Oy's and city government offices began appearing, followed by troll accounts posting splice videos, fabricated quotes, and outright lies. Even the social media pages of trusted news organizations were not spared. There were clones to spread falsehoods. On March 17, for instance, the Cagayan de Oro-based Gold Star Daily warned the public about a Facebook page impersonating its brand and posting a fabricated statement attributed to the Oy's. These were not random attacks, Aktub said. The posts were boosted, it was systematic, it was funded. Anyway, that's it for now, but please remember this is just a small piece of the larger story. If you would like to access it in its entirety, you will find the link within this episode's descriptions on YouTube or the CKUT website, or you can search for it on the Rappler official website. But yeah, with that said, I think it's right about time for a quick break, but do not go away. And if you just joined us, this is Fenny Cristo for Radio Kapwa on 90.3 FM CKUT. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to Radyo Kapwa on CKUT 90.3 FM. This is Laura, your sound tech, your singer, songwriter, gal, here for Radyo Kapwa for the last 3 years, no breaks. And here to tell you that I will be taking a break until November. So obviously things would change a little bit on Radyo Kapwa. I'm sure if you have been a long-time listener, you have noticed things slow down a little bit, reruns come up a little bit more. And yeah, it's going that way because the team has been at it for 3 years. And right now, you know, CKUT is a volunteer-run radio station, that is. And that just means that the team on Radyo Kapwa and everywhere on this radio station are all kind of doing this with the time that they have. And lately, it has been really difficult for the team to keep up with the weekly episodes. All that to say that it is time for us to enjoy the summer, and we hope you enjoy the summer as well. The programming will be regular in terms of Lahat Konektado, in terms of Tita Talks that you just heard, and in terms of Squat Show as well. So you are not going to be missing those new episodes. They will still be coming up. But there will be no interviews until November, December. And that's just what it is. I am excited to take this break, and I am also really happy to tell you guys that we're going to start trying to look for grants. Radyo Kapwa means the world to me. I've been here since the beginning, since its conception. It is an echoing of an older radio show called Sigaw ng Bayan. It's a restart, a new generation of Sigaw ng Bayan. And when I started, I was over the moon and doing above and beyond to get this show sounding great, to get everything organized. And of course, you know, with a weekly episode, it is not easy to keep up. And I put a lot of pressure on myself for the last 3 years to give you guys this content. I am for sure going to be back. And thank you, Vero. Shout out, Vero, for being like, dude, 3 years, no break. That is a lot. And even if I did feel it, I had a hard time telling myself that the work that I had done so far was enough. But today I'm here to tell you and here to remind you that time is finite. We only have so many hours in the day and only have so much time. And in order to keep loving something and putting all your passion and love into it, you gotta take breaks. Otherwise, you're putting reruns out every week. And that was me. So that's all I have to say. I love, love, love you guys, the listeners. I love, love, love this team that we have here at Radyo Kapwa. Shout out Oscar and shout out Zoe for joining the team recently. We've got Feni, we've got Kyla as the audio text, we've got Zay on archiving and platform management, we've got Vero writing community announcements, we've got Feni again on community announcements, announcing as well as news from the Philippines. Shout out John Marvin, who just left the team this year. We've also got Martin, who's doing all the coordination with all the interviews that we're having. Vero again for Lahat Conectado. Daaca on Tita Talks. And Nikki for Squat Show. There are so many people on the team just trying to keep this together, and we don't want them to burn out because we want Radyo Kapwa to keep going. So just for me, this is not a goodbye. It's a see you later. And we'll come back with hopefully a whole new jingle and a new way of doing the programming. I also want to say happy 3 years to Radyo Kapwa. This August, in a few days, actually, it's going to be Radyo Kapwa's 3-year anniversary. This is now a toddler. And I want to thank everyone for sticking around. Whether you're a listener or a volunteer, or you've been on one of the episodes as an interviewee, you've been on one of the episodes as an interviewer, we want to thank you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And with that, this week there are no community announcements. Not because there aren't any events to share, but because there was no capacity to put them together to read out for you guys. And instead, I would like to read The Consecration of Space, made by Diane Louise C. Nardo of Ka Collective. So to consecrate means to declare that something is sacred. The Centre Kapwa team is humbled and honored to make this divine dedication to our work through the talented and touching words of our dear Diane. So please respect this poet and artist's work by not reproducing or sharing this on social media. And here it goes. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space for possibility, recovery, and process, and devote ourselves in this circle as a space to embrace the process of becoming. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to embody wholeness while leaving grace for transformation, recontextualization, and nuance. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to practice consent and honor boundaries, understanding that self-autonomy is a cooperative practice of freedom. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to recognize a striving towards balance in our own lives and in our community, from our inner depths, radiating outwards to the abundant universe. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to recognize that practicing strengthening links within ourselves and each other is a defiant act, that shame dissolves in the ears of Kapwa and love links us in our responsibilities to ourselves and each other. Kapwa strengthens links through accountability, compassion, and love. We embrace that care is a deliberate act that binds community. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to show gratitude by extending an offering as an act of reciprocation and honor our connections in a good way towards collective liberation. We hold and co-create this sacred space, a space to remember our ancestors, their hands on our shoulders, and their ancestors' hands on their shoulders, onwards ascending, and remember that we are held by a web of love and care extending generations, unbridled by space and linear time. Let our voices be heard and allow ourselves to be seen as we are, in our wildness and in our unlimited capacity for expansiveness and ever-blossoming abundance. Through our web of care, extending the hands and strands of our ancestors' interwoven histories, we are in harmonious vibration with the universal currents of wisdom, power, and joy. The presence of divine wisdom is manifested here. The presence of power is shared here. The presence of divine joy is deeply felt by all those who enter here. We consecrate this space to the perfect expression of all divine qualities which are in us and in all beings. We align our vibrations to the forces of all creation, shared and coalescing as we open this space as a center for possibility and grace. Thank you for listening. Again, if you're just tuning in, or if you just tuned in during the consecration of space, this is the work of Diane Louise C. Nardo of Ka Collective, and I do find that this is representative of the space we try to create here at Radyo Kapwa, echoing the values of Centre Kapwa. Again, I'd like to thank you, everyone here, Centre Kapwa, for powering this radio show, every listener and every volunteer, for dedicating your time to listen to this show and for aligning with us. There will be the next episode and the next episode after that. Radyo Kapwa, again, does not end and does not stop when I go on break, but I am going on break, so I'd like to bid you guys adieu. Adieu for the next few months. I will be back and better than ever. I love you guys. I hope you have a good day, good week, good few months. And thank you, CKUT 90.3 FM, for everything. Laura out. Ingat. Oh, one last thing. Solidarité avec la Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.